Hi, Dr. Martin here. How are ya? Good to have you guys come on here this morning. We appreciate it. We love you guys dearly, as you know. Love our audience. Love if you can come on live. And we know many of you share this, and this gets shared, thousands of times a day. But it's always fun to have you on live if you can come on. So thank you for that, and we appreciate it as you get your notifications. I don't have another device with me to say hello to you. Facebook has changed, and I just don't see the names. Unless I have another device, I don't. I'm on the road, traveling. And nice to have you guys come on, okay? So instead of missing people like I would, I'll just say generally hello. You know who you are. The folks that come on a daily basis. Thank you for that. And we appreciate all the questions that you guys ask on a daily basis. Try and answer all your questions, especially during Q&A Fridays and Mondays. Oftentimes it goes over because we have so many questions, and we love that. Guys, health, big part of it is your understanding. The more information you have, the better decisions you can make. And I feel like that's sort of my job now. I've gone from, a practitioner and seen patients one-to-one, and now I've got a big audience, and thank you for all the success that we have on the Doctor Is In podcast. And we like to spread the message, okay? So, again, I feel like I'm more an educator now, and I love that, and I enjoy it every minute of it. Okay, so I was explaining here yesterday the function of your adrenals, okay? Because a lot of people, I probably haven't said this in a bit, but adrenal glands are a lot like Rodney Dangerfield. They don't get a lot of respect, okay? And I mean that because they're rarely ever tested unless they feel you've got Cushing's or Addison's, unless they think you might have cancer, adrenal cancer, which is much more common today than it used to be, I can tell you that. So are almost all cancers. Just to mention again, we're not winning the war on cancer. We're losing the war on cancer. But you guys are not, because you guys we're not into, not that we're against detection, but we're into prevention. We want to turn our bodies into the lean, mean fighting machine, okay? And some of us are not maybe as lean, but we're a fighting machine, okay? And that's what I want you to be. So anyway, getting back to the adrenals, the Rodney Dangerfield of your body, it is a major issue today. Now, you guys, again, anyone that's followed me for any length of time, I have a long history at looking at the adrenal glands. A long history, okay? And the history is this, that years ago, late 80s, early 90s, it was like an epidemic, and that was chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. Now, we still see a lot of that. We still see a lot of fibromyalgia. But at the time, these were new kids on the block, and people didn't know, number one, what caused it. People didn't know, number two, what to do about it. They didn't know anything about it. Well, I actually did my thesis for my PhD in nutrition on chronic fatigue syndrome and natural medicine on chronic fatigue syndrome. And so, I studied that like know tomorrow. And I think I was the first guy ever to mention that what was happening in chronic fatigue syndrome had everything to do with the adrenal glands. Okay? So go back a long way back. And I was talking about adrenal glands. And adrenal glands are little chestnut-shaped organs on top of your kidneys. Okay? Adrenal on top of kidneys. That's what it means. And look, they've got a major function in the body, but their number one function is the secretion of cortisol. Now, cortisol is your friend. Cortisol is your friend. If it's working properly, cortisol wakes you up in the morning, it gets you going, it gets you started. And cortisol is your friend if you happen to need the fight or flight. You know, someone walking behind you, dark of the night, and is scaring the living life out of you. Well, your cortisol can save your life. Why? Because it'll tell you, fight or flight. Like, get out of here. Run. Forrest, run. Do you know what I mean? That's what cortisol. So cortisol's on your side. Till it's not. And that's what I determined a long time ago. That what was happening to women especially, it wasn't like it didn't happen to men, but women, it was happening, it was 95% women, chronic fatigue fibromyalgia. Okay? And I'll tell you why in a minute. But my research showed me that what was happening, what cortisol does when it is secreted chronically, meaning long term, it drains you. Because it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be. Cortisol is, I always use this, you know, it's a graphic. That's cortisol. Okay? So what does that do? Well, you're wired. Okay? And that's all right if someone's scaring you. But if that don't stop, it drains the batteries. You see, in your body, you have battery packs. Okay? Your battery. You're a Tesla. You run on batteries a lot because your mitochondria, they're batteries. Your cells' battery packs. Cortisol, what it does, it drains, when it doesn't get turned off, it drains the living life out of your battery packs in your body. That's what adrenals can do if they're out of control. So adrenals release a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol, okay? Over a period of time, if it don't get turned off, it's going to drain the life out of your body. And this is what I wrote my thesis on. This is why I had a bestseller on chronic fatigue, the modern woman's curse, and fibromyalgia. And I always said this about fibro, okay? Fibro, a coin has two sides. One is chronic fatigue, and the other side is fibromyalgia, because fibromyalgia is part of chronic fatigue syndrome. It has the same cause, okay? So what I wanted to do this morning is, because I was explaining this yesterday, okay, at the conference I'm at here. And I was giving them background. I wrote a book Tony Jr. and I wrote a book in 2011, our 100th year anniversary of the Martin Clinic. 2011, okay? I'm not 100 years old, but my grandfather started the Martin Clinic 1911, okay? In celebration of that 100th anniversary, we wrote a book called Serial Killers, 2 Hormones That Want You Dead. Insulin, okay? Again, it's on your side. Insulin saves your life, but you don't want it having a full-time job. And cortisol. Cortisol can save your life too, but you don't want it to have a full-time job. And what was happening, and what is happening today, is you have these 2 hormones still kicking the living life out of us. They're still doing it. I wrote that book in 2011. We wrote that book in 2011. And I never stopped talking about cortisol. And you know me, I never stopped talking about insulin. You know, maybe you get tired of hearing it. I don't know. But it's a big problem. And doctors, God love them, they don't even bring cortisol into the equation unless they're an alternative medicine doctor. They just don't, you know, like you don't have cancer, you don't have Addison's, you don't have Cushing's. What do you mean I want to check your cortisol levels? And they miss the boat on so many people because it drains the batteries, it drains the mitochondria. And it exhausts you. Wired, but tired. Do you know how many times I heard? How many times I heard this in my clinic? Doc, I am tired of being tired. I'm sick of it. I'm exhausted. I'm gaining weight. I'm not eating any different. I'm gaining weight. I'm exhausted. I got brain fog. And I don't know what to do about it. And you're my last resort. Someone says that, told me you understand these things. I said, yeah, I do. You came to the right place. Okay? You came to the right place because we tested your adrenal glands and they're running on fumes. Okay? So let me go over what gets hit. Okay? Because I thought I'd break it down like this. Okay? Mind and mood. Okay? We'll do this with cortisol. So if cortisol is, okay, remember that and don't get turned off. It'll affect your mind. It'll affect your mood. It'll affect your sleep. We'll talk about that. You guys know that, but we'll talk about it anyway. It affects your hormones. Hormones. It affects that big time. Okay? And it affects your gut. Big time. And it affects your metabolism in the sense that not only your thyroid and your hormones and that, but your blood sugar and blood pressure. Okay? So let's go over that. Okay? Let's just, I wrote these headings. I like to, my mind, guys, like I got to think like this, okay? Like me, I like just putting stuff in categories and whatever. This is the way I work. I hope you appreciate this, okay? I'm simple. I got to make it simple for me. How can I teach it if I don't understand it? I couldn't teach it to you. So let me just tell you what happens inside the body when cortisol does not get turned off and you're draining the living life out of you. What happens? Okay. Mind and mood. Anxiety. Anxiety. Fear. You never had it, and now you got it. Okay? You can't turn your brain off. And yet you got like cotton on the brain because you got a brain fog, but it can't be turned off. Wired but tired. Irritability. Think of it. Okay? You're irritated and you're exhausted but irritated. Your mood changes like that. And you go, gee, what is that? Why? I'm not like that, usually. Poor memory. Your memory. Short term. You go into a room, you go, why did I come in here? Why am I doing this? Oh yeah. Like, that gets really affected by that. Because, understand this, okay? Cortisol is the fight or flight. So let me explain it, okay? Cortisol gets you ready to fight or to run, okay? And when that happens, it's a diversion. It diverts everything else to the task of fighting or running. Okay? So it's not worried about, your body says, okay, let's focus in on that. And it won't focus in on other things. Like, don't worry about memory. You're in a war. Don't worry about your memory right now. The problem is if it doesn't get turned off, those are big symptoms. Sleep. I mean, it's the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to cortisol. Okay? Why is that? Well, because when you're wired, even though you're tired, your body doesn't get into that deep sleep. Like, you're exhausted, but you're not sleeping properly. You got 5 stages of sleep. Okay, you got 5 stages of it. And where your self-cleaning oven comes in, okay, your body, isn't that amazing? Aren't you fearfully and wonderfully made? You got a self-cleaning oven in your brain. But it only works when you're sleeping. You don't sleep, your brain can't detox. And think of it, your brain is headquarters. It's got a lot of mitochondria. Mitochondria, beautiful when it's working. You got your battery packs and you're firing all cylinders. But when it gets exhausted, you don't sleep properly, and your batteries are drained. Plus, the self-cleaning oven of your brain, the glymphatic system, doesn't work properly. Brain fog, memory. You don't sleep. You don't sleep, you're tired. You're tired, you don't sleep. If you're too tired, you don't sleep. It's crazy, but in chronic fatigue, you had a sleep disorder. Doc, I'm exhausted. I could lie in bed, but I don't get it. I certainly don't get up refreshed. You give me, okay, moi. You give me a good night's sleep. Oh my. Like, even at my age, I'm firing on all cylinders the next day. Like, sleep. So, trouble getting out of bed, and part of this is slow healing. You just don't recover very well. Your body doesn't recover very well. So that's part of it. So you got mind and mood, sleep and recovery. Your immune system doesn't work as well. They've shown, like, miss one night of sleep. And there's a lot of people find this out when they go on holidays, right? I got to get up. Like tomorrow morning, guys, by the way, we're not going to do a live tomorrow because I'm traveling. You know what time I got to get up around 4:15. Now I'm an early riser, but tomorrow I got to be out of here in order to catch my flight so I got to be up around 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay. And, people go on a holiday and they got to get up to catch flights or whatever, and they get on their holiday and they get sick. They get sick. They got a bad cold. And they just, you miss a night's sleep. Your immune system is the one that pays for that. It pays for it. It's amazing. So what happens in chronic fatigue, they don't even get the recuperative sleep. So what happens? Their immune system is not firing on all cylinders. They just don't recover well, and they usually get every bug known to man. And by the way, like chronic fatigue at one time was called the Epstein-Barr virus. Well, it really wasn't that. I had to debunk that. Okay? It was sort of like the herpes virus that just lays dormant, and then people got the problem isn't with chronic fatigue. When they actually looked at it, it was only about 50% of the population had, 50% of the population had the Epstein-Barr. So it wasn't that. It was adrenals. Hormones. Cortisol. Écoutez-moi. Cortisol. Listen, Linda. Robs, ladies, cortisol robs progesterone. It robs it. So what happens? It robs progesterone. Well, now you got estrogen dominance. Okay, what's that mean, Doc? Well, it means this. When you're not balanced between estrogen and progesterone, your thyroid, ladies, your thyroid, even without the blood test showing you this, your thyroid slows to a crawl. Your metabolism slows. Dr. Martin, I'm hardly eating and I'm gaining weight. I know. Your cortisol has robbed your progesterone and estrogen dominant. And estrogen, by the way, is a fat storing hormone. Plus, when it's higher than your progesterone, I don't care if you're in menopause. It slows your thyroid, your gas pedal to a crawl. Your metabolism, you just look at food and you gain weight. You don't have to eat it, just look at it. Is it fair? No, it's not fair, but it's true. I had a weight loss clinic. I said, it ain't your fault. It ain't your fault, man. Your cortisol. It's robbing your progesterone. It's giving you hormones. It's exactly the language I used. Low libido, afternoon crashes, blood sugar up, blood sugar down, blood sugar up, blood sugar down. That's what cortisol does. Cortisol elevates your blood sugar. It's getting you ready for the fight or flight, so it elevates your blood sugar. What goes up must have come down. Insulin secreted. Insulin brings your blood sugar down, and you can go into what we call hypoglycemia. That fluctuation, low blood sugar. And I'm exhausted. And I'm craving sweets. You see Laura Secord. Do you have Laura Secords in the United States? I don't know. I used to have women tell me in my clinic, when I see Laura Secords, I want to do a swan dive. to get some chocolate in me, some sugar. In the States, what would you do? M&Ms? I don't know. What do you have? That's sort of a sweet, okay? But in Canada, we used to go, well, they want to do a swan dive at the Laura Seacourts, okay? Is there still Laura Seacourts? I know I'm an old guy, okay? Because I say things, my grandchildren look at me like, Grandpa, I know you were born in the days of Noah. Laura Seacourts, what's that? I don't know. I mean, is it still even around? I don't know. Okay. But you see what happens? You see what happens? Mind and mood. Sleep. Not recuperative. Your hormones, your blood sugar, your blood pressure. Think of it. Blood pressure goes up. And then your body will react to that and oftentimes bring it really low, and especially if your thyroid's sluggish. And your blood pressure can go up, but then it can come down. And then you're dizzy. You can get vertigo. You can get low libido. You get low, you're just running on fumes. Muscle loss. I've seen that. Well, you can't even exercise. You have trouble walking even. You're so stinking exhausted. Okay? And your gut, think of it. It's a diversion. Remember what cortisol does. Your body says you're being chased by a lion. Okay? Well, it's not that. It might be family dynamics. Do you stress? Someone's sick in the family. You know how many times I saw chronic fatigue after taking care of an aged parent? How many times I saw it after divorce or separation or a loss of a loved one, a loss of a child, or a child that got wayward and went on, got on drugs and became addicts or whatever, and then the parents are just like, can you imagine? And it's not all between your ears. Because cortisol affects your digestion. Think of it. It takes blood and puts it in. It wants you to fight. It doesn't care about digestion. It diverts it. And you're not digesting properly. And you're not producing the intrinsic factor that you need to absorb B12, because intrinsic factor hooks B12. It's very important. And every one of my patients that I saw with chronic fatigue had low levels of vitamin D, low levels of B12. It wasn't even a discussion. It was 100% true. They were running on fumes, guys. So you can see why it's complex and so often missed. They don't even test for it. And a lot of times they give you meds like SSRIs, like Prozac. It's not a disorder of a lack of Prozac. Do you know what I mean? And I God loved the doctors. I love them. But I want to grab their little faces and say, will you stop prescribing and without getting to what's going on in the body? Why do they have anxiety? Why are they so depressed? Don't you think it's possible that it's those mitochondria It's those battery packs. See, I wanted to get to the root of the issue and not just, fix symptoms. Anyway, okay. Anyway, that was part of my dissertation yesterday. And I thought, okay, why don't I just talk to you about it? Because it's a big problem today. In 2011, I saw it so much in my office, I wrote a book about it. And it's not better today, it's worse. And boy, did it ever explode during the pandemic. People were just like, the world turned upside down, and people, like the amount of anxiety we see today, like it's on steroids. It's so frequent. Okay. So make a note, tomorrow off. Okay? Tomorrow off. And Friday, Q&A. Okay, so send your questions and we'll do the Q&A again on Friday. Okay? So, guys, we love you guys. I know I just say that, but I mean it. Yeah. I appreciate you guys so much, you have no idea. Okay? And thank you for being so faithful followers. Okay? We love you, and we take our job. I take my job very seriously. And I appreciate you guys so much. Talk to you soon.